Hello everybody and welcome back to another Monster Hobbies Warhammer Townscape build video. So this is a correction to last time's video where we built the Gatehouse. I noticed a few issues with mine and it didn't really sit well with me. So I thought we would start it all over again, rebuild it, and this time I'll point out all the issues that we had and how to correct them. So without further ado, let's go down to our bench. And I thought I would just make an updated video for our gatehouse because I really wanted to try to build this as one solid thing with a different build method. Because on our other building, there was a bit of a discrepancy right here. And I just wanted to show everyone how to make this as a solid piece in here without having to have a little side piece to glue onto the box. Because here, like I was saying in the other video, this is all meant to be one piece of paper that folds around. So this area here would be scored right down there so that you could take the paper and fold it, you know, at a 90-degree angle. Actually, like this. On one way, and then on this side it would come in this way on the other, right? Then you glue the staircase to the side. Well, in this video, we're actually going to cut that staircase out and slice it down here for separate panels and attach our staircase right onto the same sheet of foam core board as the front of the building. So this will be sliced down here and cut the door off and measure this angle in here and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to spare everybody the cut and glue from the last video and just prep this thing right on the foam core and get back to you. So I ended up catching something that I didn't realize on the previous build, this build, and that is that these images here, they look pretty much identical. The roof pitch looks about the same and the opening and all that. And here we have the sides of the building, which I've cut, you know, following the crease lines and the blue foldovers. So these two sides of the building, it's actually a little bit, one of these is sloped a little bit because here you can see just a slight step from one image to the other when I lay them on top of each other. Now these ones, if you lay them on top of each other, they're pretty much the same. There's a little bit wider here on one gate than on the one down underneath it. But that's not really how the building is going to go together, with the two images facing like that. One of these is going to be external, outside, right? So, you know, they're both facing outside is what I'm trying to say. When you lay them on top of each other when they're facing outside, you'll notice that the roof pitch is not identical or reversed, or however it's supposed to be. Same as on this side. There's a piece of this sticking way off here. So this roof pitch is actually incorrect. And there's a slightly wider gate there. And then down below, it also is not square on the bottom. This one stepped a little bit at an angle. And with the building that I built the other time, if I actually line these images up on each other, they are more or less built incorrectly, if you know what I mean. Because that roof angle pitch is not correct. It's actually, you know, when sloping a little bit or something out of alignment up in here. We can't really tell by looking at it, or maybe you can, that this is sort of going in this way a bit. So in order to correct that issue, you'd actually have to very carefully put your pieces together like that and try to recut the slopes. I think what I would do is cut this slope side here this way, you know, slice it off, then turn it over and slice this piece off here and then that should give you the same pitch on either side. And then the roof section, when we glue it on later, would be corrected out. And actually, you would also cut this little bit here on this side. So yeah, hopefully that will correct some of that pitched roof issue. So I'll try it and we'll see what we get. So now I've corrected both faces of the building so that the peak is equal. And you'll notice I lost a little bit of that brown rust mark up along the roof. But what can you do? So now when I build these back to back, the roof should come out straight. Now you may be wondering why these pieces are not perfectly cut, since I had to take the building pieces and put them back to back and recut the roof. Now, what I'm thinking is, these might have been originally die cut, so the die is like a big metal cutter that pops down on top of the page, and it would perforate little lines or whatever in here so that you could push them out through the paper. And what I'm thinking is some of this might have been drawn a little bit fatter, so when the die machine popped in, it would, come in a little underneath. So it wouldn't be right cut to the lines, it would be just a little underneath it. So there might have been a perforation popping in here somewhere, for example, right? But when this got copied onto a PDF, of course, all the perforated parts were, just scanned up into the void sort of thing. So now we really have to measure these wall sections in order to cut it with our hobby knife and get it correct. So what I noticed is the side here from this edge out was originally 52 centimeters, and the other one over here was 51. So I just cut this one at 51. That's why there's a little bit of a white stripe right in here, and that gave me the right size for the wall. And as you can see, both sections match. So be really careful with these pieces to always measure them and make sure you got this thing right. These are the two end pieces to make our elevated staircase. So there's the door, and then this piece is the front wall. Now, I've cut these 22 centimeters here and here so that the end wall and the staircase should be the same thickness. So that'll make it line up with the sloped wall that's going to be coming out here. I made a little mistake. This is not centimeters, it's millimeters. 2.2 centimeters. All right, with that in mind, this sloped wall should be the same exact width as the wall it's getting glued to, and this is 50 millimeters or 5 centimeters. And you can see just by laying this over that the sloped wall is actually a little bit longer. It looks like an extra 2 millimeters. So let's just check to make sure. Yeah, 53 actually. 53 millimeters or 5.3 centimeters. So again, one bit of this has got to be cut off. The issue is which way? Lower to the door or higher up? So here I've mounted the side wall onto a piece of foam board, and you can see that this is the wall that's going to be in behind it, and now these two are the same width. And because I had to cut a little strip out of here that was quite a significant length or width, then this is actually going to be a bit lower, and that might stop that weird roof-to-roof problem we had before with the other building, where I had to cut a notch out of the roof panel that glues up on here in order to get it to fit that other roof of the front of the building. Remember? So that makes this a little bit lower, and when I get to the foam, to gluing these onto the foam core, I can then measure this and then cut the little bit off the bottom that's now overhanging in order to make this line up. But here's our foam core piece and the back wall, and now you can see that this fits perfectly in all directions. And there it is. Now, by using the building that I made in the last video as a guide, what I'm going to do here is glue this image and this image to the foam core board and then cut this out as a solid piece. And I'll do the same on the back wall. So we've got the one with the window with a little bit of broken brick, so I know that this is the right one. Here's the sliver that I cut out of the angled wall, glued onto the foam core board. You can see that it is quite significant, 3 millimeters wide. Here we have the two end pieces glued to our foam core board, and now you can see that it will all be flat in the front instead of bowing in and out like the other one, the previous one. I had to lower this down a little bit. I had it glued up here, and then I went against it with the stairs and realized that this was the wrong height for that because a little bit of the overhang. So I measured it up here, and now it's pretty much right. I couldn't peel this off. I glued it on and then realized my mistake. I couldn't peel this section off properly. I was only able to get this top little bit. So when I cut it all out, it should look a lot better. Just got to wait for this to dry fully. So here we have our pieces cut out, and this is the front wall with the taller end and the back wall with the door for our elevated staircase. Now when I glued these on, they kind of curved on me. So what I've done is I've made these inner walls really tall, so they will be able to glue in at the bottom and then go up to the top. And as I'm gluing this, I can push it up against the building so that it gets some vertical support up there, and it isn't so difficult to try to straighten it. Our floor here is 51 millimeters by 81 millimeters, and these wall sections here are 40 millimeters across here. And then, like I said, I cut them as tall as the building there, basically up to the roof line. So what is that? I would say maybe 90 millimeters, maybe a little less. I'll let you use your discretion there. Now all these edges have been beveled so that they will match up. And the piece that I don't have any foam core glued on is this one, which is the wall that's going to be going right in here. This is sort of a wild card right now because it actually has to be engineered to fit in. So we'll do that in a minute. But yeah, there's all our pieces and all the measurements. So I'm going to hot glue this down off camera and show you in stages how it goes together. So in this first stage, I've glued the bottoms of the walls onto this floor section, and then I glued the black wall in inner walls onto the bottom and just up to where they connect in this door frame. And then I, of course, put the glue on there, squished down this way, then glued the inner walls in, pushed down that way, and pushed the sides together so they would glue. So now it's still spread out at the top. So what I'll do is run the hot glue gun up on this side, and the same as the bottom here, and push it down onto the table this way first, giving enough pressure on here so that the inner walls here glue nice and flat to this side. And then I'll release the pressure, do the same thing on this side, and push it down so that it'll be square all the way up on the top. So now we have the top of the building glued together, nice and tight up in here with a lot of glue, maybe too much, but at least it's solid, so that's always a good thing. Now we can glue in the side walls here and get that all ready, as well as the sidewall over here. Make sure that you've got the broken bit of brick going together and not upside down. So that'll now give us a stronger foundation. Yep, this looks angled, but it's not. And then the only other thing we have to try to do is figure out this wall here, which needs to have a piece of it cut out here to compensate for that foam core, and then a piece cut this way to go across the top of this door frame. So I'll try to engineer it, but I'm going to glue these sides up. Here's the results of our building so far, and I didn't quite get it as tight up here as I wanted to, but it is still a lot better than the previous attempt. This is all nice in here, really tight up in there, so that was good. The reason why this kind of got a bit apart It's because the hot glue gun had started to dry up a little bit or cool down. So when I went to push it in, it was sort of like, nope, I'm only going here, kind of thing. But overall, it's quite nice. I also took the knife and beveled this edge in a little bit. It beveled it in and then cut down this way so that this met the wall over here. So now the interesting part is going to be making this wall. And I beveled one edge, but I left one edge square because I can't really, bevel in there. There's no real reason to. So this wall, we're going to have to cut the image up quite a bit. So I'll make a few measurements and then show you where we're at. So here I've cut our image 53 millimeters from the top down, and then I removed the thickness of a piece of foam core, but I might have removed just a little too much. But at any rate, this now fits inside there really nicely. And there's our new inner foam core panel, 53 millimeters tall by 47 millimeters right into the back. And afterwards, I can take my glue and glue this section on, just like so. And there it is. And then once we get the cardboard in place for our roof panel, most of that wall will be covered up by the roof. Might just want to paint a little bit in that corner there with some white, and you'll be good to go. Here we have our two gatehouses. This one being the first one that I made in the previous video, and this is the one from the current video. You can see how nice the front end looks now that it's tied together, as opposed to being, the side stairs glued on as a separate unit. And there's how you can tell which is which, because the old one has two pieces to it, the new one is one solid across. Overall, the sides of the building look pretty nice. The new one, of course, is a lot tighter, having measured it and made sure it was correct. The top of the roof, where the front edge meets this slope, on the old one has a little bit of a wedge in here because the front is crooked going in, whereas the new one is nice and tight up to the edge. Again, it looks really good. Even the chimney sits better. The roof is definitely a lot straighter on the new one. The old one, I do believe, although you might not be able to see it, it does have a curve to it because these two pieces were cut with the same roof pitch on both sides, but not, not correct, not dead center to the middle like on the new house. So I think this one will be given away or consigned to the scrap heap, and this one will take its place. But I have noticed that in the past, now I printed this one at half scale, which is interesting because at half scale, it's actually HO scale for your model train set. Now this is the inn, which I'll be making fully in an upcoming video. I'm not sure which house it is actually, but one thing I noticed with the inn is here. You see this big white blank space, and over here you can see all the beams and the wattle and daub and even some of the brick going on in here. And what it is that Games Workshop had you actually cut this right here, but when you measured up the building, if you're making this square, this is actually how off that image is to everything. Because on the other inn that I built, this wall's actually coming out at an angle like that to match where that, image, the missing part of the image is. So Games Workshop back in '88 didn't design this quite right. So there's a lot of these inconsistencies and abnormalities to these buildings. So hopefully I can help with finding where they are and on which buildings, and helping everybody to correct that, even if I don't really know where they are to begin with myself, such as making sure that this is the right width. I think it was 50 inches or something, and this was 10 or 20. I can't, millimeters, not inches. It'd be huge. But yeah, so it was things like that, whereas here it's not quite consistent, and there are issues, especially like the side of the building where we discovered that a little sliver has to be cut off here so that you don't get this wedge effect up in there. And so that's what I corrected out of here. So hopefully you can gain a little insight when you're building these, if you ever decide to do that, and build it correct. Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode, and hopefully this will help you correct that gatehouse. So tune in next time when we get to our next building, which I believe is the large house. And if you like that, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with all your friends and family. And until next time, everyone, happy model building, and we'll see you in the next video.